The topic is mouth breathing from oral habits. So I've already covered about thumb sucking. Now moving on towards the next oral habit, that is mouth breathing. So the definition of it is, so it was given by Sassoon in 1971. So it is defined as, it is a habitual respiration through the mouth instead of nose. So mouth breathing is nothing but you are respirating from the mouth instead of nose. Now what is the classification? So classification, it was given by Finn in 1987. So there are three classifications. So first is anatomic, habitual and obstructive. So anatomic is basically if your upper lip is short and it leads to incompetence of the lip, because of that the patient he is having mouth breathing. Habitual is, it is a matter of habit or a persistence of habit. So habitual is nothing but because of the habit of mouth breathing. And obstructive is, it is increased resistance to or complete obstruction of the normal airflow. So if there is any obstruction of the nasal cavity, it can lead to mouth breathing. Because of that obstruction, the patient he breathes from the mouth instead of nose. Now what is the etiology? So the children suffer from some degree of nasal insufficiency. So there can be allergies, physical obstructions and chronic infections, and there is this airway obstruction, and it may be due to this various reason. It can be due to allergic rhinitis. There is this deviated septum, because of that there is obstruction of the airway. Then there are enlarged adenoids or tonsils, abnormally short upper lip preventing proper lip seal, and because of that the patient he has this mouth breathing habit. Then the next is, there can be obstruction in the larynx. There can be genetically predisposed, and it can also be the reason. So the thumb sucking, it can also be the etiological factor for mouth breathing. Now moving on towards the diagnosis, how you're going to diagnose this case. So first is taking a proper history. The next is examination. Now in examination you will see the mouth breathers. So the lips of mouth breathers, they're apart. So the patient is asked to take deep breath through the nose. So there can be like no change in the shape or the size of the external nose. So basically it's like when you're asking the patient to take a deep breath from nose, there would be no change in the shape or the size of the nose. And the mouth breathers, the lips, they are apart. So there is no competency of the lip. Next can be the clinical test. So first is this mirror test. It is also called as Fogg test. So in this, basically a two-surfaced mirror is placed on the patient's upper lip. So you are placing a two-surfaced mirror on the upper lip. So if there is the air condensation on the upper side, it means he's a nasal breather. So basically it's like two surface. So your mirror is a two-surfaced mirror. So there is like the mirror on the nasal side and mirror on the oral side. So if there is condensation on the nasal side, so on the upper side, that means he's a nasal breather. The next is water holding test. So this is basically the patient is asked to hold a mouth full of water. In mouth breathers, they cannot retain water for a long time. So basically you are just seeing how much time the patient he can hold the water in the mouth. So basically it's like around you are seeing for 30 to 60 seconds. So if the patient is unable to hold the water in the mouth for that much time. So now the next one is the Juman's butterfly test. So basically in this, few fibers of cotton, they are placed just below the nasal opening. So on exhaling, if the fibers they flutter downwards, the patient he is a nasal breather. Then last is this rhinometry, and this is only reliable way to quantify the extent of the mouth breather. And one more can be cephalometrics. So it is used to calculate the amount of the nasopharyngeal space. So through cephalometrics, you can calculate the amount of the nasopharyngeal space. Now what are the clinical features? So in general, like what are the general effects? So there can be purification of inspired air, pulmonary development. Then there is appearance of a pigeon chest, lubrication of esophagus, which leads to dry and it produces low grade esophagitis. Then there is maxillary sinus and nasal cavity, it becomes narrowed. Speech, it acquires a nasal tone. Then there is sleep apnea syndrome, in which there is enlargement of the lingual tonsils, which leads to the obstruction of the oropharynx. Then there is the blood gas constituent, it have 20% more carbon dioxide and 20% less oxygen in the blood because of the oral breathers. The next is the dentofacial structure. So in the facial form, you'll see there is this vertical growth pattern, and the cephalometric analysis, it reveals that there is increased facial height, there is increased mandible plane angle, retrographic maxilla and mandible. Then allergic children, they have increased anterior facial height. So the children who have allergics, so in that you'll see the face height anteriorly is increased. Then the adenoid faces, there is the long narrow face, narrow nose and nasal passages. Then there is flaccid lips with upper lip being short, and the skeletal pattern, it is dolichofacial. The nose, it is tipped superiorly in front. Then often the patient, he is expressionless. The buccal segments of the maxilla, they are collapsed, leading to a V-shaped or a high parietal wall. So basically there is a high parietal wall. Then there is the upper lip, it is short. So the patient, he is often expressionless. Then you will see a narrow face. The face of the patient is narrow, long, and the nose is narrow, and the passages, they are also narrow. The nasal passages, they are narrow. Now what are the dental effects? So first you will see the incisors, they are proclined. There can be posterior crossbite, and there is a tendency towards open bite. Then there is a narrow palatal and cranial width. So palatal vault is narrow. Then there is constricted maxillary arch. So your maxillary arch is constricted. Then there is flaring of the incisors and decreased in the vertical overlap of anterior teeth. There is increased incidence of caries because the patient, he is a mouth breather. Then there is a chronic marginal gingivitis. There are speech defects. There is a nasal tone in voice. The lips, in lips you'll see the lips, they are apart, and there is low tongue position. Then external nares, there is atrophy of the lateral cartilage, which results in a slit-like external nares with narrow nose. The other effects can be, there can be otitis media, sense of smell and taste, it is decreased in cases of mouth breathers. Now what is the treatment of it? So first is a symptomatic treatment. So in this, gingiva, it should be restored by coating it with a petroleum jelly, and the treatment, it is aimed at elimination of the cause and interception of the habit. So there can be exercises which can be done. So physical exercises, they are done in the morning and the night. So there is this deep breathing exercises which are done through the nose, in which the arms, they are raised sideways, and after a short period of time the arms, they are dropped to the side and air, it is exhaled through the mouth. So this is the deep breathing exercise. The next exercise is a lip exercise. In this, the hypotonicity and the flaccidity of the upper lip is affected, and the child, he is instructed to extend the upper lip to cover the vermilion border and behind the maxillary incisor, and this is done 15 to 30 minutes a day for 4 to 5 months. The next treatment plan can be, the patient, he is asked to play a wind instrument. Then there can be this metal disc or celluloid strip which is held between the lips. The next treatment plan can be maxillothorax myotherapy. It is advocated by McIlroy in 1960, and in this, it is an expanding exercise which is used in the conjugation with Macrae's activators. So this is nothing but, it is a myotherapy with the help of these activators. And the last can be this oral screens. So this was it of this video. Thank you so much.